Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in internet land, and welcome to the MMA Show. Coming up in this show, we'll be reviewing UFC196 McGregor versus Diaz, UFC Fight Night Silva versus Bisping, Bellator 149, Shamrock versus Gracie, and we'll also be previewing next month's show, UFC 197, Cormier versus Jones. If you want to contact the show, please email us on the MMA Show number 7, that's the MMA Show numerical 7, at gmail.com, and we'll be happy to receive your feedback, comments and any suggestions. Well, in tonight's show, I have a special guest, a long-time friend and Uki from West Midlands Ju-Jitsu in Birmingham. A shout out to Sensei Walker and all the crew. It's Marcus the Beast Cottrell. How are you, Marcus?
Well, good evening, Gail. Good morning. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm all right, thank you. I'm quite excited. That's when I first learned about this thing that you've started, and I'm happy to help out in any way that I can. Having a chat about MMA with a good friend hardly seems like work, so I think it's going to be nice.
But I think we started Japanese Ju-Jitsu nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah, it must be.
Mid-late 90s.
I remember, yeah, back in the day when we were younger and fitter and...
Friend and Uki.
Yeah.
But I think Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, if it was taught right, it is actually MMA.
Yeah, you're right, because it covers so many parts of combat.
Yeah, because you've got the stand-up,
correct.
You've got the kicks, you've got the punches, and then you've got all the groundwork as well. So you've got the locks, the chokes, the holds.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the stuff we used to do from hip throw onto the ground. And you remember we used to get into the armbar?
I do remember that. And also, if you look back at the history of it, I think this is one of the reasons that a lot of the troops during some of the world wars, First and Second World War, were introduced to this, because should some of these soldiers ever find themselves in a situation, at least they had an understanding of what to do. And I'm sure, like everyone or two that's been unfortunate to be in a fight, there's no rules when it comes to a fight. And if you can cover the things like the round, like the strikes, the kicks, whatever situation you can find yourself in, and you've got a reasonable bit of intelligence and understanding of a technique, potentially it could save your life. So, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. The original art in Japan 2,000 years ago was for the samurai when they became unarmed, and it was hand-to-hand combat.
Correct, that's right.
So if they fell off their horse or they couldn't have their weapons for some reason, it was maim the opponent as soon as possible. That's why we did so many. Remember the joint locks, chokes, the breaks of the arm from the double wrist lock, which in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu they named it Kimura.
And I think that's a really good point, because should a warrior in those days have found himself without weapons, and he was facing an adversary, the only weapons he had were those that he was naturally born with, which were his,
And you didn't want to start a fight. You wanted to finish that guy
as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
If you break his arm or break his neck, he's not going to really be much use in a fight. So
correct.
Yeah, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu obviously is very important, and so is wrestling. But I think if someone did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu properly, 30% groundwork, 30% say kicks, 30% punches, and the rest of it sort of the positional play. Well, don't forget the takedowns when we used to do single leg, double leg, the trips. I can't remember all the names, but
no, you're right.
And throw and half shoulder, and
I think majority of professional fighters that you see will tell you that most fights start standing up, but sooner or later, I would say the majority of fights always end up on the floor. And that was the great thing that you touched upon earlier about the traditional jiu-jitsu. You'll learn how to stand, you'll learn footwork, strikes, etc. But you'll also learn what to do, even if it means landing well on the floor, not necessarily having a technique to get you out of trouble, landing well enough to get away.
Your break falls.
Exactly, your break falls.
Which you learned in white belts, but
which we learn
if
right
you carry
from the
that through.
That's right. Knowing how to land properly. I mean, I read an article about a guy maybe 3 or 4 years ago, a black belt 2 or 3 down in karate, gets into a street fight, lands heavily, lands wrongly, ends up, dying.
Yeah, you hear people hitting their head on the curb or...
Correct. I think that's what happened to him.
Yeah.
And you hit the ground so quickly, you just don't realise.
No.
I mean, when we used to do throws, on crash mats, purpose-built crash mats, we'd fall,
in the winter, those mats were bloody
like
hard.
concrete. Exactly, yeah. But we knew how to break the fall, and land and get back up. That's the important thing, getting back up, so that you can either fight your adversary, fight your opponent, or get away.
Yeah, whatever the situation demanded. But
I agree.
I think one of the best things we did for a bit was when someone would push you by surprise.
From the back, and we go into a forward somersault, or at least slap the floor.
Or, and turn your head away so your chin doesn't crack.
Chin, nose, etc. Yeah. Just protecting our vital parts. What is it that Terry Silver used to say? The Karate Kid Part 3, man who can't see, can't fight, look after yourself.
I think that's where McGregor was going, but unfortunately he did get seen and got cracked a few times.
Yes, Conor. What a
so let's move into McGregor versus Diaz. What did you think, starting with McGregor versus Diaz?
So I'm a big fan of both fighters. I think from what McGregor has come from, and I think he's backed it up as well. You look at who he's beaten: Mendes, Poirier. Aldo knocking the best pound for pound, hadn't been beaten in 10 years, out in 13 seconds like he predicted.
Yeah,
I admire the guy. I'm also a big fan of Nate and Nick. I really love those characters.
They're proper fighters, aren't they?
Never give up, always in for an entertaining
biggest
fight.
Heart as well.
Yeah, and supremely talented guys. Great stand-up. Nick's stand-up particularly.
His boxing.
Superb, and a great ground game. And Nate great on the floor
Ju-Jitsu,
too.
Yeah.
But going back to the fight with Nate and Conor, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it was a fair result. I think the weight that McGregor went up to, I think he weighed in on weigh day
168 or something.
Yeah, I think so. Nate 169. So I guess Nate's fighting at about 175, 178.
It wasn't a true welterweight fight.
No, it wasn't.
Because they normally weigh 190, even in Johnny Hendrick's case, 250 pounds. Or
look at Alves. Remember Thiago Alves when he fought GSP? He must have been 210 pounds on that night.
And they cut back to 170, and then, like you say, they can add 20,
balloon,
25.
Don't they?
So with a welterweight, you're normally fighting someone who's about 190 pounds.
Yeah.
I think GSP used to put on at least 15.
GSP, total athletes.
Especially towards the middle and end.
I agree.
But I thought McGregor, the disappointment for me was he didn't show much heart. In two aspects, he got punched for 15 seconds, and he got visibly rocked.
He went for that takedown,
and that was desperation.
That exactly.
It was like, don't punch me no more. I want to go to ground.
And also, I think usually when Conor connects with that left, people go down. Now a welterweight like Nate, he's a bigger guy.
He's big weight,
got a superb chin. And when things didn't go to plan, and he looked gassed as well. After about 3 or 4 minutes, I would say Conor was more or less done.
Halfway through the second round,
he was done. I think beginning of the second he was done.
Because I think in the first round he looked like he gave everything. He got Diaz with at least 5 or 6 that big, like you said,
and he didn't go
in the
anywhere.
featherweight. The 2 or 3 would have, made him crumble.
Yeah.
But weight, heart, and chin, and experience. Diaz said himself, "I've been around for nearly 10 years in the UFC, on and off."
Diaz,
20 fights.
On his day, Nate Diaz can beat anybody at 150. I think Nate's probably a 170er. I know he does fight at 155, but he just looked in good condition at 170.
Yeah.
Maybe he fights at 155 and goes up to 170, 175 for fight night.
He was at 170. Was it 3 years ago? But then he got ragdolled by Rory McDonald. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
And that's when he went down.
He
got ragdolled by Rory McDonald. But he's a beast as well.
Correct. He is. Yeah, he is a beast. But yes, I think McGregor started off well, and really it was a bit of a boxing clinic to start with. He was catching Nate left, right, and centre.
Sweeps with that left hand and
very good.
The body as well.
Yeah, I thought he probably should have done more body kicks and maybe more front leg kicks and kicks to the leg just to slow Nate up, a bit like RDA did when they fought. But I think Conor's supreme belief in his own abilities probably was his undoing. That left
he
wasn't
underestimated he overestimated his left
Yeah.
and underestimated Diaz's chin.
Yes, I think you're absolutely
And that
right.
combination just...
And it was over by. I mean, he was looking worried towards the end of the first. He'd been peppered a few more times.
Yeah, you're right. He starts to come back,
and that's the thing about the Diaz brothers. They're volume punchers. I'm sure it's either Bisping or Nick Diaz who are number one with the amount of punches
right
thrown and landed.
Yeah, 1 and 2.
And Nate's the same. Look at what he did to Cowboy all those years ago. And I'm a big Cowboy fan.
Cowboy's one of the elite stand-up fighters, and he looked pedestrian against Diaz.
Now I'd have bet money that Cowboy
Diaz slapped him
walk.
around.
Yeah.
Well, Diaz did it before the McGregor fight to
Michael Johnson.
He's very good stand-up.
Beast, Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come from nowhere. He was in a TUF, I think, originally.
Yeah.
I don't think he won TUF that year. It was the first time I saw him. Then I didn't come across him for about another 18 months, and he was a different fighter altogether. And when I found out that Michael Johnson was fighting Nate, I thought it's going to be a tough night for Nate. Nate weathered the first round and a half, just came back.
He just controlled it.
Yes,
controlled him and controlled the fight.
His stamina's good. He seems to get stronger as the fight goes on.
And he's done his Stockton slap.
Stockton slap. I do not want to stop. I want that on record. I don't want a Stockton slap.
And
My wife's given me a Stockton slap.
I think we've all had that. But I think when he caught Johnson with a really hard left, and he just folded his arm and smiled and said, "Oh, that hurt you, didn't it?"
Yeah. That's the great thing about the Diaz brothers. They've got real ring craft now. Yeah. They've got the haters as well. I mean, I was reading Sherdog earlier, and I can't believe they still get. I mean, how can you not love the likes of the Diaz, Nick?
Well, they come off the street, and they could have gone the other way.
Yeah.
You can imagine what environment they were in Stockton, near Los Angeles. But martial arts, they got into jiu-jitsu to Gracie's Gracie's gym since they were kids, and like you say, kept them out of prison. And now they're pretty well off guys. So,
and you know what as well? I think an interesting point is that I think behind the scenes, I think Diaz is respect. Yeah, I think that they're really, solid. Really nice guys.
But McGregor was trying to make fun of Nate Diaz, in the first press conference in that gym. Yeah. Did you see that one?
Yes, I think I did.
And he was saying, he teaches kids on Sunday.
Yeah.
I was thinking, why would you make fun of that?
No, that's a cool thing.
That's giving back to the community.
Yeah.
And he was saying, he does bike rides with the elderly. Why would you make fun of that?
So what?
I think McGregor dropped a ball there. Trying to be too funny.
I think he's gone down the Chael Sonnen line, and he's trying to hype the fight, get as many pay-per-views, because ultimately he'll benefit from that.
I think he's taking it out of context.
Yeah, that's right. But I also think he has tremendous respect for the Diaz. And I've seen an interview where Conor McGregor has said, I genuinely like the Diaz brothers. And who knows, they might very well be friends behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, straight after in the cage, they did shake hands, and Diaz initiated the going over to Conor, because Conor was on a stool.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because he was obviously recovering, and Diaz went over. I thought that animosity would stay, but the whole coaching staff, they went over to each other and shook hands.
Very respect, and that's how it should be.
And Jake Shields was part of it.
Yeah,
and he's a proper martial artist as well.
Shields, a very underrated guy. I mean, didn't get the win, never got the strap when he was at the UFC.
His stand-up was pretty poor.
Yeah, his stand-up was awful.
But his obviously grappling was
unbelievable.
Yeah.
GSP said so.
If it was the old UFC,
he'd probably be world champ.
He would have been,
GSP said so as well. I never want to go to ground.
Shields, and GSP, did make him look, kept the distance, killed his jab, and then made him look very
GSP,
ordinary.
that's a whole other program. But what a genius! He moved UFC on. He's people saw GSP, realised just how good they had to become to
he raised everyone else's level.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think he'll come back? He was there on the...
He was, Do I think he'll come back? I'm not sure he will. I'm not sure he's anything to prove. I mean, how long
he doesn't need money.
Doesn't need money.
He's,
Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was the fight everybody wanted. Silva's damaged himself now, I think, beyond redemption with the steroids thing, and I actually think we'll come on to Bisping later. But, so do I think GSP will come back? No, I'm not sure he will.
I can't see the motivation, unless it's one of those Rocky type things. Something's missing. But I can't. Looking at from the outside in, I can't see what's
he got to prove as well. Who does he fight? Does he go straight for Lawler?
He retired undefeated. He's obviously a multi-millionaire, so I don't know. It's unless there's something in him that we don't know.
I mean, I'd watch it if he came back.
Oh,
I've always thought he's an
only
absolute...
34.
He's that old he is as well.
Yeah, still early to mid 30s.
Yeah, so a lot of UFC fight. Look at Lawler. Lawler came back to be world champion at his mid 30s. Yeah, potentially he could come back, and I think he'd probably beat virtually all of the welterweights too, unless he went up to middleweight. Some big middleweights out there at the moment, so I think he'd stick to welter, and he'd probably be world champ again. But there's other fights I'd like to see rather than GSP coming back. I didn't find his style of fighting boring. I thought he was a very smart fighter with a great coach and just superb abilities.
Their strategy was always
spot on. A fantastic wrestler. He made stuff look so easy.
Well, he was one of the few, we were talking about it earlier, where he's naturally a stand-up guy. Karate was his main discipline.
And a great stand-up fighter as well.
Yeah. And he embraced wrestling, and probably in MMA wrestling, top 2 or top 3.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, there was talk of him going to the Olympics at one point.
Yes.
And I think
London 2012 was
as a fight fell and he was training for a fight, he didn't have enough time to dedicate. But potentially he could have gone. He's so athletic and so naturally gifted. I guess he could have done anything and succeeded.
But just to finish off on McGregor versus Diaz, I think McGregor tapped early. I don't know what you think.
I don't think he was thinking straight. I think he was that gassed. He physically he was broken down.
Exhausted.
The left hooks, the straight lefts, they hadn't worked.
Yeah.
He
gave everything in that left.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he was done within the first 5 minutes. I don't think he was thinking straight. I think he went down. He did actually. When you rewatch the fight, he did a nice move on Diaz in the first round. Diaz went to ground with on top of McGregor. McGregor reversed it. Got on top of Diaz, and I thought, wow, that's great. But when they stood up afterwards, he was breathing heavy then, and I thought he's in a bit of trouble here. So he was kind of desperate, didn't want to get punched in the face anymore. Yeah. And you're a shark, and you're in the water when you're in Diaz on the floor. Yeah. And I thought Diaz was cool in the sense that when was it Herb Dean refereeing?
Yes, it was.
Herb sort of stopped, Connor tapped Herb, and he left it on there for a split second, but he let it go afterwards.
Yeah.
Someone like Pal Harris, it'd still be on, wouldn't it?
Yes, probably his windpipe would have been pretty much severely damaged. But I think question marks over Connor's heart. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
2 from stand up. Yes, Diaz is a very hard puncher, but McGregor has given the persona that he'll fight through anything. Well, which he wouldn't. He's just proven that. And tapping, I was expecting from a rear naked choke some sort of squirming, some sort of movement, something, because he was getting ground and pounded, and then he gave up his back, which is always a dangerous thing to do. Yeah. But I think because when remember Sage Northcutt, he tapped early,
very early. That's
but
right.
no one said it. Joe Rogan never said anything. I listened to the other shows. The what's the other one? Ariel Helwani.
Yeah, I know.
The MMA Hour. No one's really questioned
touched upon that.
Whereas Sage Northcutt did it.
Yeah. His
poor kid got stolen.
Yeah,
he's only 19.
I know.
Actually, Rafael Das Anjos was on the MMA Hour yesterday.
Right.
And he did say Holly Holm went to sleep, rather go to sleep than tap.
Yeah.
Whereas the Connor tapped way too quickly.
Holly did go to sleep, didn't she?
Yeah.
Well, I think
there's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu code that if you're getting choked, just go to sleep because you'll wake up again.
Right. Okay.
Whereas if your arm's getting broken, then tap because obviously you could be up to 6. That's what I think Das Anjos was saying. He said, choke, so what? You go to sleep, you wake up.
Well, aren't McGregor's 3 losses all from submission now?
Yeah, the one before this was Joseph Duffy.
That's right.
Was that a knee bar? Was that choke?
It was a quick fight, whatever it was, and Duffy did a great job.
I know there's choke, knee bar, and now another choke.
Yeah, okay.
And I think at this age, at this level, because he is in the elite now, can he actually fix those gaps?
Well, that's a good point. I think he's learned some important things.
Because he kept saying, I've learned, I fixed it.
Yeah, no, he clearly hasn't.
Diaz of 10 days notice.
Yeah, I know. Well, yes, I think he's learned not to go up to welterweight again, or not fight at catchweight at 168. I think his perfect weight is probably 155. So I presume
he doesn't have to cut down too much.
Yeah.
Have you seen him in 145? He looks like
he looks like the machinist, the Christian Bale film. Yeah, it's too much, and I think the long-term health effects of dieting so much, dehydrating yourself, starving yourself, it can't be good.
It's classic yo-yo dieting.
So I think he sticks at 155. I think he fights RDA. I think he's got more than a good chance of beating RDA.
But you know what RDA will do now? He'll just try to take him to ground.
That's the thing.
And he's a very good grappler.
He is. I'm not sure they'll have quite the strength and the size advantage that Nate Diaz would have against McGregor. I think they're more evenly matched. I think McGregor will be fitter and a bit quicker as well. It's going to be a great fight. And
his cardio will be in check.
Yeah, I think
because he hasn't ballooned up 20 odd pounds.
But taking nothing away from Rafael, he's an absolute, he's a Tasmanian devil. Yeah. Look at what I'm a huge fan of Cowboy.
Oh, Cowboy.
And what he did to Cowboy, I'll never forgive him what he did. I mean, Cowboy didn't turn up for that fight. I heard a lot of...
That was 2 minutes into one round?
Well, I heard...
A minute and a half?
He didn't warm up. He's always been a slow starter, Cowboy. There's some mental problem that he can't seem to
conquer. He's acknowledged that many a time.
Because when he gets going, Cowboy's potential world champion. He's just had, there's a who's who of who he's beaten to get that Rafael down.
Well, he won 7 in a row, 8 in a row.
7 or 8 in a row. Yeah. And it's who he beat: Barboza, Miller, he beat Benson Henderson. Eddie Alvarez, fantastic fights. And so I think Conor defends at 145, I presume, against Frankie.
Now.
Yeah, or
Frankie
relinquishes.
Or even Eldo, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Either of those two, or relinquishes the title and goes for the 155 strap.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really hurt his stock that much.
No.
He always had a way out of this fight, which was I'm not big enough. All right, I made a mistake. Yeah. I wasn't as efficient as I should have been.
Still got his belt.
Still got the belt, and he's the first British champion we've had for forever. Is it?
British and Irish.
Irish. Yeah.
Apologies to our Irish fans.
Yeah.
He's Irish.
I'm half Irish myself.
So I know what you mean, European, British Isles.
Yeah. We haven't gone close, has he? So
I mean, the only guy who is Dan Hardy, George St. Pierre. Remember Dan Hardy's George St. Pierre?
Yeah, he fought. Yeah, I think he fought more. He was a colourful character. He got his shot.
He had a few good wins. He was good stand-up, Shaolin Kung Fu and kickboxing.
Is he coming back? I don't know.
I don't know. He does a lot of work for BT Sport, doesn't he? On the
he does a good job as well. I've got to say.
And he goes into the cage and interviews.
And I think he's well liked in those.
He's well spoken, and he's a good. Obviously, he's got the
understands the game.
Yeah, exactly. He's a fighter. But moving on to the co-main event at UFC 96, Holly Holm and Misha Tate. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, disappointment really at Holly's performance. I think she said so herself. She just didn't seem to quite have the success that she did against Ronda. I mean, that will go down in history. Just what she did to Ronda Rousey. Yeah, she made her look as amateur.
Stupid.
Yeah. And so I don't think Holly really got started. She was smart in the sense of keeping away from Misha.
I think that was a big difference. Joe Rogan was saying it on commentary. Ronda was walking in the straight line
into her. Yeah.
And you see, if you're a very good counter, if you got technique, you can pick people off. Where Misha Tate, they obviously studied that, and she was circling, moving up and down, changing levels, and then shooting. So Holly couldn't really get any rhythm. So I think that was a big difference.
I'm not sure Misha is going to be a long-term world champion, though. I would imagine Ronda will come back. She's beaten Cupcake twice.
Yeah, Strikeforce and in the UFC.
So
Submission twice.
Yeah, and then maybe
I think she broke her arm in Strikeforce.
Yeah, you could be right.
I think so.
And then I presume Ronda gets the belt back. Then whether or not she defends against Holly again,
I think she'll have to. I think she'll honour it, and I think she'll want to reprieve of that loss as well. But I'm
not sure she's right. A very unstable individual she seems
Ronda.
To me. Yeah, she
some of the stuff that came out.
Yeah, and she just looks really affected by
it's
that.
Like when
defeat.
she's high, it's amazing, but when she got low, it was like boom.
I mean, she said she's
suicide, and
that's right. Like that. I saw some of the interviews she did on American television
on the chat shows,
and she's going out with that guy now, Travis. And I'm not sure he's right for her mental state. He's a bit of a dirtbag, isn't he? So. Yeah,
but no, I think you'll be. The good thing was that Holly Holm got $500,000.
Is that right?
Yeah, Misha Tate got $92,000.
Wow.
That's a win bonus as well, so doubled it.
What a discrepancy in America. That just goes to show.
The best guy, the guy that was smiling all the way to the bank was Conor. He got $1 million for losing.
Yeah.
I think Diaz must have got $1 million after he won.
Yeah, because there's that great interview where McGregor says something like, "It feels great to be a millionaire, doesn't it?" And Diaz comes out with a classic line, "I'm gonna go and buy some nice SHIT." Yeah, hilarious. And I think even McGregor laughed at that. But I would imagine Misha will get a bit more of a payout. I mean, it doesn't sound great to me. You're a professional fighter putting everything on the line. You come out with 90,000. Maybe they get points at the other end. I guess it's
for the pay-per-view
and the sponsorship deals. Although I don't think Reebok pays that much.
$10,000 for
new pair of trainers.
A new top and.
She's very professional, though, Misha. She looks great. She's good behind classy. The camera. In front of the camera. Yeah. Very knowledgeable. So
you can't begrudge
her.
No,
no, you can't knock her, and it's nice for her to get her time because she's done a lot.
She's been around a long time.
She's helped move women's MMA on, as well as Ronda and Holly. So but so I would imagine look to the rematch between her and Ronda anytime soon.
Could be UFC 200.
200's coming up. There's a lot of names, a lot of
I'm not sure
matchups.
Who would be the main event for that? I'm not sure now. It would have been McGregor and Dos Anjos possibly. Depends on his injury, but
is GSP? Are they setting him up to come back at 200?
I don't think there'll be enough time.
I've heard.
I can't think because I was looking at UFC.com and 199 is Rockhold Weidman, the rematch. 198 is. Vadum and Miocic.
Miocic,
yeah. That's 198, and obviously 197 is Jones and Cormier. So I'm thinking 200. Who could it be?
Well, I've heard
Diaz, Aldo.
Well, I've heard that. Quite possibly
Aldo McGregor.
Or
Frankie
quite possibly
McGregor.
I've heard there's rumours they're looking at Bisping and Nick Diaz as his first fight back after suspension, which the trash talk in that would be epic.
That would be amazing. Diaz would win, but
it would be at 185 as well.
Yeah.
And Nick is a good 185er.
Yeah.
He holds the weight well. His cardio doesn't suffer, and he punches with lead. That guy.
Yeah, I mean, and the technique they show, the way they walk down people. To the because he walked down Paul Daly.
That's a great Semtex. That's a
Semtex is lethal.
Man, that guy can throw some leather. And
Diaz was not scared to stand up. He could have taken him to ground. Locked him up.
Well, he knocked Diaz down. Yeah, exactly. Diaz, he's got that granite chin
and that
just
heart.
Stood back up and
egging him on, saying,
yeah. That's a great fight.
Yeah, but he's still around in Bellator, Daly.
Is he? Yes, he is.
He fought a few months ago.
He was meant to fight Koscheck. Koscheck got injured, I think.
Yeah. But sticking to UFC 196, I think the third fight was Latifi and Vellante.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a stalemate, wasn't it?
I think they kind of cancelled each other out a bit.
Latifi had the couple of big slams, which looked impressive.
Yeah,
and he's obviously a bull of a man.
Very strong looking guy.
Yeah, he's built more like a powerlifter. But it wasn't a great fight, and
had undercard written on it, and I think it got people, going.
I think the right choice, the right decision.
Yeah, I think so.
He did enough.
Yeah,
Vellante seemed slow, and I mean before that they were talking about knockouts because they're both big punchers, but like you say, they were probably too wary of each other and kept enough distance.
Yeah,
where you're not really going to get
a lot of mutual
out.
respect, and I think they're both stuck to their strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And the on the main card was it Corey Anderson and
Corey
Tom
Anderson.
Lawler?
Yeah, I mean Lawler's been around for a while.
I thought Tom Lawler won that.
I think they got the wrong call there.
Yeah,
I mean Corey Anderson,
he got 30-27 with all three judges because he must have won the first round.
I don't understand that
because he took him to ground.
Yeah, I'd have thought
he shook him. He was on rubber legs.
Yeah,
Corey was.
And I don't really want to
split. You can maybe understand, but 3 rounds.
I don't think I want to see another Corey Anderson fight. They seem to be more or less the same.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a professional fighter. He got the job done. He got the W. But you can get more work in the UFC by losing in a great fight than you can winning a kind of a stalemate.
And winning a fight of the night or something and getting a bonus.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I don't think he's championship material.
I agree. I don't think if he carries on with performances like that, I don't think he'll stay relevant.
No.
And he'll be in Bellator or something.
Yeah. And it was light heavy, wasn't it?
Yeah,
205.
205ers.
I mean, you got Daniel Cormier,
They're never going to get close,
Anthony Johnson,
Gustafsson.
Gustafsson.
Bader, I know Bader lost, but he's still
there. Yeah.
Rashad Evans is making a comeback as well, apparently.
I've made a note of that. He's on one of the cards in April, I think.
Do you know who his opponent is? His opponent been named
It's Shogun.
Yes,
classic fight.
Yeah, two huge names. Shogun, goodness me, Shogun's still standing. That guy. He's a bit like JDS in the punishment he's taken over the years. But once again, tough as nails. I think a real dedicated individual, and I think a cool guy to go out and have a few drinks with afterwards and a good chat. Some of the stories that Cat could come up with,
Oh yeah.
But I like Shogun. But I would imagine Rashad will win. Just smother him, wrestle him, and sit on him probably.
Just use a strategy and take him down when he wants to. Stand him up when he wants to.
Yeah, I think so.
Combine that and probably get a point. So he's still got a good knockout.
Rashad. Yeah, he doesn't get a lot of love really, Rashad, but he's very good at what he does, and he's a good spoiler.
Yeah.
So someone like Shogun, he'll come out and he'll take him out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
And he won't allow him to do the things that Shogun's good at.
To settle.
Yeah, exactly.
Into a rhythm.
But I mean, Shogun's got a good submission game. I don't think I've really seen him
underrated.
submit too many.
Yeah, I think because he was so good stand-up.
Yeah.
He just used to kick people to death.
Yeah, I think you're born in Brazil and you become a fighter. You get your black in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. All those guys come from a good, solid ground base.
It's a national sport.
And Brazilian,
like football. Yeah.
In the right hands, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so effective.
So lethal.
Yeah. Deadly.
I think if it was still the old days, one style, it'd probably still be the top.
Well, that was the great thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do you remember UFC1? I think where. Ken Shamrock, roided up to the eyeballs, 250 pounds of blood clot, gristle and muscle, and he's fighting Royce Gracie, who's probably 185.
Something like that.
And Gracie, what Gracie does,
12.5 stone against 15 stone.
It's historic what he does. I mean, you'd have bet money on Shamrock just slamming him through the mat.
Looking at them, yeah.
Oh, GSP used to come up with that line. Technique will always beat strength. And that's just about epitomises everything, doesn't it? Yeah, fantastic. I mean, Gracie, one off that guy, just supreme.
You got to respect him. But okay, I think that's UFC 196 reviewed. Moving on to the next item is UFC Fight Night London, which was in I think February the 27th, and that was Silva versus Bisping. That was a classic fight.
I agree. I mean, well done, Michael Bisping.
Yeah. Controversial.
Just strange because Bisping did what he was good at, which is pick and move.
Volume.
He's a smart boxer.
Yeah.
You can see his footwork. Brilliant. Really gets him out of trouble.
He's not there to be hit.
And on his day, Bisping, I mean, he certainly showed people what he's capable of. He stung the Spider. He knocked him down. He came back from that wicked knee,
flying knee,
bizarre, and also that front kick as well to the face.
Yeah.
But Anderson Silva, I don't know what goes wrong. What goes on in that guy's head?
Celebrating, didn't he? So.
And he's not listening to his trainers. His trainers are telling him there's another round to go.
Yeah.
He's waving him off, convinced that he's won. I think Herb Dean did the right thing. I know you meant to stop the fight and allow the other fighter to pick his mouth guard up, but
no, apparently you're not supposed to do that.
Is that right?
Yeah, because Herb Dean was on one of the shows, I think, the MMA Hour.
Right.
And he says the reason they don't do that, if someone's getting the pasting, battering, they could spit their gum shield out in the middle of that, and they could get 10 seconds to. So if your gum shield goes, if you lose your gum shield,
that's it. Carry on.
They have got discretion, but they have to wait till there's a lull.
Right.
So maybe two fighters just start backing off each other. Then you can say, right, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
So lulling the action, it's sort of paused by itself. Then you can stop it and say gum shield. But Anderson was on the attack, so no way could he stop it.
And I think a lot of these referees, they're aware of how long they've got that naturally built-in clock.
And Bisping's a fighter, so he's not aware of every rule. It does seem sensible. I've lost my gum shield. I don't want my teeth to get knocked out. Give him a gum shield, but if you put it like people could start spitting their gum shield out to get 10 seconds rest, then I think that was the right thing. But
I think to come back from that knee as well, showed real resilience and toughness.
Had Silva followed up with even 2 or 3 punches, Herb Dean would have stopped it.
It was over. That's right. It was
because Bisping did lose all his senses.
He was
his
gone.
Head went down.
He was gone.
And I think, was it 5 or 10 seconds, the bell went?
Yeah.
Very quickly afterwards.
Well, that's the strange thing. He was still groggy coming out for the next round.
Well, yeah, but you get a minute for a rest, so even a minute wasn't really
It just
enough.
wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And then Anderson's clowning around then.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, surely you go in for
the
kill.
On the one hand, he still got it, but why would you do that? His hands were down, he was bobbing and weaving, and
a similar situation in the 5th round.
He's not 34 anymore, or
No.
35,
Has
he's 40.
Maybe he's just got that belief, along similar
Maybe he's done
vein,
it so long.
and he thinks I can get myself out of trouble at any time.
But I thought Weidman knocking him out, that's exactly what he did. Pointing to his chin and doing all that, and then Weidman said, "Okay, I'll punch you," and
See how
he
you
was
make
out.
that? Yeah.
So he hasn't really learned, but maybe it's ingrained in him.
But I think the decision was right. I think Bisping clearly did enough to win.
3-2.
Yeah, I think that's 4-1, 3-2. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And well done, Bisping.
I can never understand why Bisping never got a title shot. He's got 20 wins, 18 wins out of 24 or something.
He's
ridiculous.
Prolific, yeah. And you
In
look
the
at
UFC, this is not MMA.
Yeah, and you look at who he's lost to. I mean, it's a who's who of who he's lost
Vanderlei
to.
Silva, Chelson.
They're not punks, they're real fighters.
Dan Henderson.
Yeah.
I think that's about it. Who else did he lose to?
Rockhold beat him.
Yeah, Rockhold. Yeah.
Did he fight? Has he fought Belfort? Yeah.
Yeah, Belfort beat him. Okay, 5. Yeah.
Okay.
And the very, very
top.
The
high level guys.
They're
absolutely.
all fought or been champion.
Well, Bisping is certainly still relevant, and he's put his name back in the hat.
I think one more good win, maybe Diaz or someone who's in the top.
Jacare's around. Romero's off. He's got busted for juicing.
And he's taken some dodgy supplements.
Anderson Silva, he's got past Silva. So if Rockhold beats Weidman, which I probably think he will do, maybe Bisping gets the rematch.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, Rockhold's he's a different conversation here, but he's a.
I don't think Bisping will go straight back into. I think he's maybe one more fight they might give him, and then see what happens. He's got a winning, convincing style, I think.
Well, the other side is he's a potential matchup if someone's injured.
Yeah,
and they need
he's always
somebody,
in shape.
He's very professional,
and he's willing to. Short notice.
He's not scared.
He doesn't
of anyone.
bother about styles and stuff. No. He's like Connor. He's got confidence in his own ability.
He's got onions, so fair play to him. He potentially does deserve a world title shot.
But do you think Silva's got it in him to get another title shot?
I think he probably has. I mean, it just depends which Silva turns up.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You've got to say to him. I don't know what. I mean, he's a coach unto himself, a bit like BJ. Nobody tells BJ what to do. No, exactly. I train myself. And because he's performed at the highest levels, he's got to come in focused and just go for a kill, basically.
But I think it was an extremely good performance because he's had 2 fights in 2 years, broken leg, suspension, and he still looked very sharp.
A naturally fit guy.
Yeah, exactly. And his cardio was good, 5 rounds.
And that was a full-on 25 minutes of fighting.
It was a battle,
yes.
Back and forth. Knockdowns and kicks and... So I think he's still got the cardio, he's still got some level of his technique, well, a lot of his technique, some level of his sharpness, because he did evade quite a few punches doing it that way. I don't agree with him still keeping his hands down, but he's still got it. So I think it's mental. If he's mentally wants the title, then say, adios, I'm out of here, possibly. But next fight for him?
I would have thought he'll stick at middleweight. He doesn't really want to go upstairs.
Not at his age now.
No, I agree.
Because wasn't there talk of Belfort in Brazil?
Yes.
Because that 198 in Brazil,
yes, he beat Belfort a few years ago with that front kick, that Steven Seagal front kick. That would be interesting.
Segal, get it right.
Excuse me. Yeah. He's lost his aura a bit because he's been beaten a bit a few times.
It's not the same as
that cloak of invincibility has gone.
Yeah.
But on his day, he's got skills.
Next?
Well, if I was to say, maybe Jacare, that'd be an interesting fight. Maybe Belfort, like you say.
Yeah.
I think Weidman and him probably won't cross paths again.
No.
So there's certainly potential for him.
Yeah, I think there's a few good matchups for him, and he kept saying during the build-up that he wants to go for the belt again.
He wants another shot at the title.
Maybe one more fight. If he wins impressively, he could go for it. Maybe another fight.
Well, he's big enough. I mean, that surname puts bums on seats,
exactly.
doesn't it? It sells tickets.
He's still pay-per-view box
Anderson
office.
Silva, absolutely. Yeah. He's gold material.
And his style's still,
very, very good style.
Effective.
He's got a good submission game as well.
Yeah,
I mean, he submitted Dan Henderson all those years ago.
And Chael Sonnen in the 4th round.
Yeah, great.
4.5 rounds.
Yeah, epic. So who would he go for next? Yeah, maybe Rockhold. Maybe that's something Dana's looking for, or Fertitta's are looking at,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to his next fight to be for the title. Like you say, Rockhold beats Weidman, which I think will happen.
I probably think that.
Weidman, Rockhold versus Silva. Potentially, he doesn't have to have another fight. He's done enough in the sport.
Yes, that's right. Looking back at what he's achieved, past achievements, he does deserve that.
And he looked good against Bisping.
Yes, he did. He came in on shape.
There was no obvious, deterioration in the game. There obviously is with age, but to the untrained eye, he didn't look that. Nothing obvious.
And you've got to come in fit against somebody like Bisping because he can fight 5 rounds.
Well, he would have pushed him. Like you said, he knocked Silva down at least once. Was it twice or once? At least once. And the way Bisping fights, you don't get a rest. Bisping is chasing you around the cage, and he's throwing 3 or 4 punches in one go, then moving out, coming back.
I mean, you've got to say, MMA fighters, boxers, they must be amongst the fittest people in the world.
Oh yeah, I think MMA fighters because of the grappling and wrestling, but yeah, boxers are phenomenally fit as well.
They're so conditioned. They take punishment. They give punishment. They have to remain constantly alert,
vigilant,
so having that kind of
and calm.
That tires you out. I mean,
nervous energy alone can
ruin a fight. The adrenaline that's going through your body,
the adrenaline dump.
Everybody's watching you. The stress. I mean, goodness me, how they can do that. You've got to take your hat off to those guys.
It's absolutely crazy. It's phenomenal. Okay. Moving on to Bellator 149, which the headline was Shamrock v Gracie.
Yes.
I don't know, did you catch any of that?
I did catch it. I mean,
well, there wasn't a long fight anyway.
It was
2.5 minutes.
I mean, it was like watching a couple of guys who had an argument
guys.
in a pub,
on a Friday night.
I'll see you outside. They were there for the money. And I don't blame them.
It was a name-only fight, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a strange one, really, going on past achievements. Like we touched upon earlier, Gracie changed MMA forever and put